Yo, what's going on guys? Ian77 here. In today's video we're going to be going over the top 5 decks to win a classic challenge with inside of Clash Royale. So the first deck here is just going to be the typical Hog EQ. Obviously it's kind of the main deck of my channel, but I feel like it's also a really good deck to win classic challenges with because it has pretty basic cards aside maybe from the Firecracker, and I know a lot of you guys know how to play it quite well, so I feel like it would be a good idea for most of you to try it out in a classic challenge, and you can probably get some pretty good wins with it. And yeah, so you can honestly try a lot of different things in classic challenges because they are like a bit more off meta, so a lot more different stuff works compared to like what normally may be good in challenges like grand challenges. But yeah, I feel like as long as you have like a pretty good control deck in a classic challenge, it should be quite a nice deck to have, because there are a lot of those weird spammy decks in classic challenges, but as long as you have like the main answers you need, you should be looking pretty good. So yeah, I just want to make sure you have like good enough responses to defend the majority of stuff. Alright, so in this first match here, it looks like we're going to be facing against 2.6 Hog Riders, which honestly is also a pretty good option to use in classic challenges, but I did just go with Hog EQ here, just because it's more of a familiar deck on the channel. But yeah, 2.6 could definitely work if you are more into that play style. I feel like 2.6 is pretty good too, because even though when you have Hog EQ, it's really nice to have the Earthquake to get more tower damage. When you're in classic challenges, most of the decks are kind of like weird decks that don't really have buildings even sometimes, so you don't always need the Earthquake, but it is good to have sometimes. Alright, and by the way guys, you should kind of treat classic challenges as like a mid-ladder push, kind of like where you're kind of expecting to face those weird but crazy decks. You want to be like a little bit more passive sometimes. I mean, I'm being a bit more aggressive because I know what this guy is playing already, and I'm quite confident in the deck, but maybe for some of you guys just trying it out, I would recommend being maybe a little bit more passive than you would be elsewhere. Alright, and by the way guys, 2.6 is a pretty good matchup with this deck. You don't really have to worry about anything. You just always want to make sure to keep up with their Hog Rider, and always have your Tesla in hand when they go with a Hog. But this guy isn't playing like too well or anything, but sometimes it is good to defend their Hog Riders with like a Valkyrie plus Log and like a Ice Spirit or Skeletons, but don't really need to do it here because he's not really playing like the best ever. I mean, the people in classic challenges aren't like too good or anything. They're kind of mostly just average players, so you don't really have to worry too much about them making some crazy plays or playing super well. They're probably just going to play their deck as an average person might, so yeah. Alright, so yeah, pretty good right here. We might win here in a second, and looks like he's actually going to give up, so gonna have to BM him a bit because he's BMing us first, but that's going to be a pretty easy win here. Alright, hopping in the next match here, we're going to be using Logbait, and shout out to Riley CR. I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he's a fellow Clash Royale YouTuber, and he does actually play this deck a lot, and I think he did create it, so actually got this deck off of him, but I think it should be pretty good in classic challenges. Has a pretty quick cycle and has responses to most of this stuff. And looks like we are going to get Golem first played right here, but even though we don't have Inferno Tower, we do have Canyon, which is also quite good against Golem. It has like high on-point DPS and is pretty cheap as well, so should be pretty fine right here. And I think we can rocket all of his stuff. Yeah, we were able to group it together pretty easily with the Electro Spirit, so looking pretty nice here. I was kind of scared that it was Golem Throne for a second after I saw the arrows, but seeing the Mega Minion and the Bomber, it's probably going to be the version with like Elite Barbarians and stuff, but just going to go with the Goblin Barrel in the safe spot right here, just to make sure that he doesn't have a Tornado or something. And seeing the Zap, I'm pretty sure it is the E-Barbs version, which I'm not too sure how to feel about it, but we do have some pretty good bait for him. Like, he has to either arrow our Goblin Barrel, our guards, or our Dart Goblins, so we can kind of do pretty well here. And he's going to go with another Golem in the back, so I'm just going to apply some pressure here, because I know we have really cheap defense with our cannon, so I'm not really worried about, I don't know, being a bit passive. I'm not really worried about being passive. I'm kind of just trying to make sure I can get some damage, and but not being like too aggressive to where I can't defend anymore. I think we should be able to defend pretty fine here. We're gonna rocket his E-Barbs and Mega Minion. Even though it may seem kind of awkward to rocket those things, I feel like it actually is quite good to do that. Got us a pretty good trade right there, and looks like defense is going to be pretty fine right here. Just going to log away the Golemites as well, just to make sure we take as little damage as possible. And we pretty much had a flawless defense and took the majority of his tower, so definitely a really nice deck. Can really punish people well as well, having like the guards and the Dart Goblin and all of that stuff. And you can always rocket cycle if you can't break through the normal way, so you do have quite a few options to get damage. And it is also quite nice to have like Dart Goblin against like mortar decks, I feel like, and also against like Graveyard and stuff like that. Does kind of just apply some really good pressure. Even though Princess is always nice to like stack on the field, Dart Goblin can also kind of stack up sometimes if you cycle a lot of them, and also they're just really oppressive in some matchups, so it kind of fits in the deck quite well. Alright, so we're going to have another really nice defense right here, pretty much flawlessly defending this guy, and you can kind of see how the Dart Goblin's also being really annoying for him. Like, he always has to like arrow it away, but then he can't defend our Goblin Barrel. We're just going to Goblin Barrel in the troll position right here. Just because he Golem first played, I just have to DM him a little bit with the, you know, the cheeky side Goblin Barrel, and that's going to be a nice easy win. Alright, and hopping in the next match here, we're going to be using Royal Giant. So, I know a lot of you guys probably don't have champions unlocked, but when you're playing a classic challenge, you can actually use champions. And I know a lot of you guys probably, you know, you can use it, but a lot of you guys probably still don't have experience with champions. But honestly, Skeleton King is pretty easy to play. Like, basically you just play him down, like, maybe as you would play like a Dark Prince or something like that, but the thing is, like, as troops die, the Skeleton King will collect their souls, but then when his meter above his head fills up, then he can use his ability and he spawns skeletons based on how full that meter is. So, yeah, that's basically how you play him. It's not too difficult, to be honest, kind of self-explanatory, but maybe it will take a little bit to learn him, but definitely worth trying out. And if you guys are really worried about using the Skeleton King, you can definitely try Dark Prince in its place. It should work pretty okay as well, but there is really nice synergy in this deck with like the Tombstone that gives the skeletons out, and then the skeletons from the Tombstone will die, so it will charge the Skeleton King's ability, and then it kind of just works out really well for you. I'm just gonna go with the RG at the bridge here. I don't really think he has any way to stop it since he wasted his Witch and Dark Prince. And I'm just gonna predict his bats here as well with the E-Spray, and looks like we're gonna hit it right there. He will go with the arrows, but super late, so actually gonna get like a ton of damage right there against this guy, and yeah, feeling pretty good about this one here. It is probably going to be Giant Graveyard, but we do have like Fisherman to pull his Giant away. We do have Hunter as well, and we do also have Skeleton King, which is pretty nice against Graveyard, to be honest, because it like defends it really well. Then it collects all the souls of the Graveyard, and you can kind of just like log it away as well when you have to, and then you'll have a nice Skeleton King alive for offense. Alright, so just always going to Lightning away his Witches. Don't really want to play with it too much. And still looks like we're going to win here, most likely. I'm just going to ask you guys a question. What deck do you guys enjoy the most in or what deck types do you guys enjoy the most in Clash Royale? Like, are most of you guys more of like control players where you like decks that just have like a really safe defense, or are a lot of you guys aggressive players that like decks like Lava Hound or maybe even Golem or something like that, where you kind of just are okay like sacking your towers and not having the best defense, but you like just having a good way to break through? Personally, I feel like I'm more of a control player. I always like having decks with super solid defense, but sometimes it is fun to play Golem and then just wreck everyone with Golem first play and all of that stuff, so I can see why some of you guys might like those decks. I also do like control decks a bit more though, because I feel like it's really it's really nice to have like the super good outplay potential. Like, you can always even like activate your King Tower with those cycle decks using like Skeletons and Iceberg. There's just like so many different things you can do even if it's a hard matchup. So yeah, and that's gonna be GG right here. Hopping in the next match here, we're going to be using Minor Control with Rocket. I feel like this deck has been pretty good for a while now, and it's just like a really safe deck. It might not be like the most meta deck ever, but I feel like it's just a really really consistent deck that can get you quite a lot of wins in these classic challenges, so definitely feel free to try out this deck as well. Most of these decks are pretty free-to-play friendly as well, so I think most of you guys can probably play this deck, because it does have like mostly common cards and maybe a couple legendaries and stuff, but it should be pretty safe for most of you. Alright, so looks like we will be going against Logbait here. He's going to Princess at the bridge there, and he's going to get quite a lot of damage, so not the ideal start right here, but I'm going to see if we can get this Dark Prince to get any damage. Doesn't look like it here, though. The guards are going to do a pretty good job cleaning up. But at least we do have our King Tower activated, which should definitely help quite a lot here, because it is always really good to go with your E-Spirit on their Goblin Barrels, and when you have the King Tower activated, you only take one stab from the Goblins, so... Alright, I was going to go with Skeletons there to deny all damage, but he'd go with the Barrel in the weird placement, so wasn't really able to stop it, but should be fine. You're going to go with a Miner, and we do have the Skeletons as well, and he's going to go with a Valkyrie, but looks like the Skeletons are actually just going to destroy his tower, so right back in the lead just like that, which is pretty good for us right here. I kind of was expecting that Princess, but I was expecting like a second later, so the Dark Prince is not going to block it, but looking quite good here for us. And we do also have Royal Delivery as an alternate response to his Goblin Barrel if we need it, so always have a free pass to use our Wall Gun offense when we need it. So honestly, this matchup should be pretty fine here. And I know Logbait will be really popular in classic challenges, so it is quite good to have the double small spell just to clean up like any Logbait deck really well, or you know, any swarmy kind of deck. And we're gonna go with a Miner Rocket here as well, because this game is kind of going to be mostly about Rocket Cycle, and the nice thing for us is that we do also have the Miner for additional chip damage, whereas he only has the Rocket, as long as we make sure to block his Princesses and his Goblin Barrels. And you do usually want to hover your Royal Deliveries to fully counter the Goblin Barrels, because if you don't hover it, it can be pretty hard to get the timing off properly, but if you're pretty quick on the delivery, it should always be able to fully counter the barrels, which is pretty nice. I'm just going to go with the log here, because we just need like a log and maybe like a rocket here to finish it off, so want to use it on offense there rather than having to use like 2 rockets or like a rocket and a miner. And I think the rocket should finish it here, so that's probably going to be game. I don't see any way he's going to cycle back to like 2 rockets or get any type of damage on us, so yeah, really easy win here, and Logbait is really popular, so this deck should do super good against all those Logbait decks. Alright, hopping in the final match here, we're going to be using this Safe Control Miner Balloon deck right here. So this deck was quite popular at one point back when Inferno Tower was super good, I think, but it kind of fell off ever since then. But I feel like it's actually quite underrated right now and still quite a good deck. And yeah, so you have to play it really well, but if you do, it can actually be quite nice. We actually did kind of mess up the Miner safe spot right there, but he actually messed up his Tornado as well, so wasn't able to get the King Tower activation off of it. And this might be like some Xbow deck or something. He does have Ice Spirit kind of strangely over like whatever else Xbow might be using, but at least we did have a pretty good start here. He did spend quite a lot of elixir, so we're probably going to be up a few elixir here, but might be a pretty difficult matchup because he does have like Tornado, Tesla, and Rocket, so gonna be pretty hard to ever get our balloons to the tower. Luckily the Musketeer should get a good amount of value though, because he can't really kill it too well, because he can use like Ice Wizard, but it's never really gonna do super well against the Musketeer. It's always gonna kind of get outshined, I feel like, so might have to try to like Musketeer stack later in this game, and just gonna go with a balloon right here. It may seem quite aggressive, but he went with the defensive Xbow, so no reason not to go in a bit right here and try to get a bit of chip damage. It looks like he does go for the rocket there, but Musketeer actually gonna get so much damage, and actually got that one extra shot too. I feel like ever since the Musketeer buff, it has been super good, but it is still outshined a bit by Archer Queen, but I feel like it's quite good to use Musketeer in this deck just so that you can cycle to multiple of them, whereas Archer Queens you can only have one on the field at a time. And, you know, I feel like this deck is just like a really solid deck all around, so you can kind of beat bait pretty easily having the double small spell once again in this deck, and you also have like pretty good matchups against like those Mega Knight bait decks as well with like Skeleton Barrel that I know is pretty popular for some of you guys when you're playing these challenges. So you should have quite a few things for everything. That's kind of why I chose these decks. This deck isn't like the most meta deck or anything, but I feel like it's just really solid all around. So just like a good deck to play if you're comfortable with it, especially. Alright, and we're still going to get Loon Death damage there, so even though they did nerf the Loon Death damage a while ago, it's still really good, I feel like, and it still always will get you consistent chip damage, even when they're able to fully counter your normal balloon. The Death Bomb often will always get that little bit of extra chip damage for you that you kind of need to break through in some matchups. But yeah, honestly, the Tesla is pretty good against the balloon now, because you used to be able to, like, kill the Teslas with, like, one balloon shot and a snowball, but ever since the nerf to the balloon damage, or, like, the rework more of, it did get, like, a little bit trickier to break through a Tesla, but at least it does have the quicker hit speed, so it will be a bit better usually when it gets on the tower, but against some buildings, especially like the Tesla or Cannon, it does get a bit, or it does have a bit worse interactions against them, but, yeah, still not too bad, to be honest, and, this might be GG here. I think the Loon Death damage will get on the tower, so thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye!